Good morning. I can only hope it goes well. Let's see if we can cut that volume down a little bit. I don't want it to peak and blow out. All right. Okay. All right. Mic check. Okay. All right. Yeah, that sounds good. All right. I'm going to mute my desktop audio. We don't need that for this one, as far as I know. And I don't think there's anybody in here. One watching now, which is me. Nice. Okay. Feel that. Let's see. Nice. I don't know. I feel kind of doubtful that we'll get anybody in here. Still waiting on maybe somebody will chat. Maybe. So we may not get anybody in here. I may just have to do this and just go on with it. I think everybody else is watching other things right now. There we go. That's a little better, I think. Okay, I'm going to wait around a little bit to see if anybody jumps in. Move that away. That'll be better. There's no viewers. Okay, well, I guess I can do my best. So, welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you're new. I'm HowlinMadSmith, and today I want to discuss, which I'm reading a script, obviously. Today I want us to discuss some things I've learned over the past several months. But first, here are some updates. Okay, firstly, I'm no longer drinking, um, at all. Some of you can recall that I had been going through some issues, struggling with alcohol, right? And some mental health issues I was dealing with, and had sought therapy, had sought some help, and it was pretty well futile. It was basically a money trap, and unfortunately, I got swept into addiction, uh, the addiction route. You know, having to go through rehab and all that. But I digress. I'm not gonna complain too badly like I did in my last video where I was complaining about that very reason or about that very thing. But my options were limited, and so I decided to go ahead and go to rehab. And unfortunately, I sacrificed a few things to do that, like my job, the place I was living in the little camper, and I even moved to an entirely different city, uh, which, fortunately, as you can see in the background, um, someone had enough grace to offer me a place to live until I can get back on my feet. And that person is a blessing. Oh my, that person's a godsend for it. But anyways, um, as it stands right now, I've got plenty of time on my hands, and so next I'm going to be streaming or uploading videos every day, every single day. I don't care if I don't have anything to talk about at all. I'm going to get on here and I'm going to stream. And like I originally intended, it's going to be my hope that I can actually earn some income doing this. But we'll see. We'll be patient. Um, uh, I'm not sticking to the script. I'm sorry. So now this is going to be challenging because I'm doing everything myself. I wrote my own script today. I'm not sticking to it, but at least it gives me an outline, and it'll give me more practice doing this. Um, but as of now, this channel is way too small to do anything with, and I don't have a set niche that I'm in. So we're just going to test and see what's what. But I'd love to get over 100,000 subs, but let's even try to break 100 right now and go from there. But all right. So I learned a few things in the process of of being in rehab and getting sober, and they were quite interesting to learn. So this is from ACOA, and if you don't know what ACOA is, it's Adult Children of Alcoholics. And so this is from their website, right? This is their website. And so I don't know if I can I don't know if I can see that. Let's do this. Okay. So let's go ahead and read this out. This will help you to understand a little bit what I actually was dealing with as far as um, internally within myself. So this is from Adult Children of Alcoholics. This is not Alcoholics Anonymous. This is um this is a different group which deals similarly with addiction and alcoholism. And in reality, I relate to it more than I do Alcoholics Anonymous, which when I first read this, when somebody delivered this information to me, it blew me away because it described me almost perfectly and the things that I've been dealing with. So this is from their website directly, and I want to share this with you. It's the problem. And so many of us found that we had several characteristics in common as a result of being brought up in an alcoholic or dysfunctional household. We had come to feel isolated and uneasy with other people, especially authority figures. To protect ourselves, we became people pleasers, even though we lost our own identities in the process. Now, this is important because a lot of children that grow up today that become people pleasers, they don't have any identity. And you see this daily that, you know, I don't have a colloquial word to throw at it, but it's schmuck, maybe. I don't know. But anyways, all the same, we would mistake any personal criticism as a threat. We either became alcoholics or practiced other addictive behavior, which is, of course, for adult children of alcoholics, is the only darn coping mechanism that we learned is some kind of substance, or married them or both. Failing that, we found other compulsive personalities such as workaholic to fulfill our sick need for abandonment. We lived life from the standpoint of victims. Having overdeveloped sense of responsibility, we preferred to be concerned with others rather than ourselves. You know, this one really hit hard for me. Hold on, I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it. And we don't have any concurrent viewers right now, so I can kind of do what I want. Nice. Thus, we became reactors rather than actors, letting others take the initiative. We were dependent personalities terrified of abandonment, willing to do almost anything to hold on to a relationship in order not to be abandoned emotionally. Yet we kept choosing insecure relationships because they matched our childhood relationship with alcoholic or dysfunctional parents. These symptoms of the family disease of alcoholism or other dysfunction made us co-victims. What's a co-victim? Those who take on the characteristics of the disease without necessarily ever taking a drink. That is profound. Now, I will stop there. I will stop there. Let's see. What was it? Overdeveloped sense of personality. So essentially, these co-victims, right? These individuals who had adopted essentially the the characteristic of the dysfunctional parent, right? I want to talk about this because from personal experience, um, I had adopted a lot of the behaviors and mannerisms of the abusive authority figures in my life, the parental guardian figures in my life. I had adopted many of their ideas, their mannerisms, their viewpoint on the world, um, and essentially that became life. That's what was true for me. And so I became an alcoholic before I ever drank a beer. It doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense, but in reality it does. Because if you're behaving as as an addictive person, like say these behaviors of an alcoholic, like can't stop drinking, is always prone to anger, etc. You see these behaviors of anger, always has to have your way, always the victim. You see these behaviors in children, right? And you see them in young teens, and you see it in young adults. You see it all throughout the spectrum of life. These addictive traits, or these characteristics of a person who is like an alcoholic, but they're not an alcoholic. They're always angry. They're always bitter. Well, let's take into account that If a child is abused, right? If a child is abused, we take pity on that child. We really look at that child and we say, that's not okay. We need to protect this child. What society as a whole does not do is similarly, if a child is raised by an alcoholic or a child is abused, right? Or a child grows up in a household in which negativity is the main point of view. It's the main basis point. It's like where somebody comes from, negativity. If a child is raised in this environment and begins to adopt these things, adopt these negativities, these victim mentalities, or instant gratification, say, I've got to have it my way. Let's take, for example, Violet in Willy Wonka and Willy Wonka's chocolate factory kind of things. I want a squirrel, and girl turns into a blueberry, all that kind of stuff. Whatever. I want it, and I want it now. Okay. Children are like that already. But growing up in an environment where children are watching adults behave in this way too, they learn that this is the way to be, right? So if a child is growing up, let's say, in a household where cursing is allowed, or the parents curse a lot, child's probably going to grow up cursing, right? And we look at these things and we say, oh, poor child, right? And then let's say that child grows up and no one ever presents information or a different point of view, a different worldview to that child, and they become an adult and they retain that viewpoint of the world, that negativity, that negative self talk. We don't actually look at that adult and say, you know what, you had a hard past, you had a hard childhood. Let's slow down, let's work together, and let's help you through empathy. No, 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 that's not really what happens. What really happens is this understanding that you're an adult, it's your responsibility now. Okay. Well, I can't go on a tirade and say, let's change the world and make empathy the first and foremost response. It's not going to happen. Fine. And that's fine. We're not here to change the world. I'm just here to change myself. So what we also see is that with the adopting of these characteristics, we'll scroll back up if you don't remember. To protect ourselves, we became people pleasers, even though, and get this one, we lost our own identities. Many of us don't even know who we are. Many of us had grown up in such abusive households with such addicted authority figures that the only way we knew how to survive was to essentially flush our own identity down the toilet to please the person who was abusive. And as losing our own identity, says we became reactors, allowing other people to dictate our lives. And as a result, adopted the toxic behaviors altogether as our own identity of the alcoholic or the addict. We became what we were frightened of, and as a result, fear rules and reigns supreme. So when I tell you, it's like this. Well, let's continue. We were dependent personalities, terrified of abandonment, willing to do almost anything to hold on to a relationship in order to not be abandoned emotionally. Yet we kept choosing insecure relationships because they matched our childhood relationship with alcoholic or dysfunctional parents. Right? These symptoms of the family disease of alcoholism or other dysfunction made us co-victims, those who take on the characteristics of the disease without necessarily ever taking a drink. We learn to keep our feelings down as children and keep them buried as adults. As a result of this conditioning, we confused love with pity, tending to love those we could rescue. Even more self-deflating, we became addicted to excitement in all our affairs, preferring constant upset to workable relationships. This is not a description, or this is a description, not an indictment. Yeah, this isn't made to make me or you feel bad. But what this is for is to let you know that a lot of children that grow up in alcoholic, addictive, or abusive homes grow up to be that same product of the environment, right? It's not who the child is. That's not the actual identity of the child. It's just what they grew up to learn is the accepted norm. It's what's supposed to happen, right? So, uh, not to get too far off in a tangent, but any child that is raised in, let's say, an environment that is really hammered down on personal growth and success and personal achievement and integrity, these things are instilled from an early age. These things they grow moving forward into in adulthood. You might see somebody like that who was raised in an environment like that they actually succeed in life, um, or they're more kind and compassionate, or they're empathetic towards others, or they understand processes better and social dynamics, right? Whatever the case, the truth of the matter is that from my life, what I began to understand is that um, throughout my childhood, I had learned a lot of behaviors that were not good, to say the least. And I had seen a lot of things and received a lot of, we'll just be general here. I don't want to be too overbearing, but m- multiple different forms of abuse. And I grew up um, thinking that screaming at somebody was the correct thing was the way to get your point across to somebody. And I grew up very angry. I was very angry about everything. And I felt isolated and alone. Even today, I still feel isolated and alone. Um, but what I learned is that the things that I was taught, both directly and indirectly as a child, led me to this position, led me here. So all of the things I learned in my past to stay alive, to stay out of the crosshairs of the authority figure that might inherently punish me for my existence, I essentially had to throw myself away. Well, now as an adult, right? 35, it's fine. I'm a loser. I'm a loser. I got no money, I got no car, got no girl, got no job, got no home, blah blah blah. On and all the things I'm a loser. Okay. Great. But that's not the truth. That's not really the truth. The truth of the matter is that I won that battle, but I lost the war. I escaped um, several abusive homes. And when I say several, I mean not every single person was beating me. You know, there were things happening like gaslighting and psychological abuse, um, physical abuse. There was violence, obviously. There was, but there was also the violence of language, right? The violence of language where a parental figure might say, "You'll never amount to anything." Well, to a child, that's a bit abusive, you know. If it's a you thing, right? When you look at a child and say, you're supposed to listen to me because I'm the adult, and then the child begins to lose out in life, and then you blame the child. It's like, well, was the child following your directions? Well, sure. Hey, what's up, Rusty? What's going on, Rusty? Man, I'm sorry. I started this stream by myself, man. I didn't even know you jumped in here. Good to see you. I'm just talking about adult children of alcoholics, and so sharing up some updates and everything. How you doing, brother? But ultimately, when a child is raised in an environment such as let's say a parental figure has alcoholism, right? And the child grows up in this environment, and as we read, they adopt these behaviors because an alcoholic can be abusive, right? We know this. So the child begins to adopt coping skills or mechanisms, we'll say. They are skills, though, to protect themselves. They literally throw their own identity away and adopt these mannerisms of the parental figure who's an alcoholic, addict, whatever the case may be. So for me, this was a profound moment um, in rehab. And when this information was given to me, it shed a lot of light on my own past. Is that, the only thing I knew was to grab a drink, to isolate, to get away from people, to be alone. The only thing I knew to get my point across to people was become violently angry and scream at them. We all know that's not good. But what I also learned is that not only was it not my fault as a child, but I could change it. I could do something about it later in life. And one of the things I wanted to share with you is how difficult it is to get negative thoughts about yourself and the world around you out of your head and replace them with positivity. It's hard. It's more than just hard. It's like you don't know what the opposite is. Like, I know what I don't want. I don't want this, but you don't know what you do want, right? It's like you've got a coin with only one side. Well, for me, I learned these things more and more in rehab, especially talking with the therapist, the head therapist that I got to see. And so I realized that a lot of the issues I was facing came from my childhood. It wasn't that I was drinking every day. It wasn't that I couldn't hold a job. Like those were the immediate problems. The underlying issues were really, really back there in the past, and I couldn't get them. I couldn't get away from them. It would be things like I'd wake up in the morning, and my first thought is, I don't want to do this. I don't like this. I don't like the way I'm living. I don't like who I am. When you wake up in the morning, and from childhood, that's your first thought for the past 20 years. It can be very, very, very difficult to break out of those way of thinking, that way of thinking. 15 to 20 years of every single day you wake up and you're negative about your life and the world around you. Imagine, imagine how difficult it is to succeed in life. And not only that, but when you actually notice it, to change it. So, having said, I am not trying to play the victim when I make this statement. It's no wonder I find myself where I am. I am not surprised. Now, it took a lot of work to flee these toxic environments, and I use that word very intently. It took a lot of work to get out of those environments. I mean, on several occasions, I had to flee from people, physically assaulting me. People, as in authority figures. Now, what this does, well, what it did for me is I found myself in a different state. working a different job, completely isolated, and I was left entirely with my own thoughts, which weren't even my own. They're what other people gave to me. You're a piece of crap, you're worthless, etc. The list goes on. And unfortunately, the only thing I could do was go to rehab. That's all I could do. There was really no other option because if I continued down that road, um, I probably would have lost my job anyways, and I would have kept drinking, and that's fine. I'm glad that I made the decision to get out of there or stop drinking and get out of that situation. But it found out in rehab that I didn't relate to AA as much because it more put all of the here, you just drink too much. Here's some stuff you got to change. Put a lot of that on me. And I'm like, well, where's the room for I learned this kind of stuff when I was young? Oh, well, then we don't do that here. Okay, well, I felt distanced. Well, when I came across adult children of alcoholics, a lot of it really resonated with me because I had become that negative, angry, defensive person before I ever started drinking. I really did. I became that before I ever started drinking, and it sucks. It really does. Um, and so it wasn't even that I was an alcoholic. I had these problems before I ever started drinking at 11, 12 years old. I mean, I was a very angry child before 10 years old, you know? So when I looked at this, it really blew me away. And so I wanted to share that with you. Um, but also, what else do we have? I'll keep this short. I mean, we're already 30 minutes in, so I've got a good bit of personal work to keep working on myself, and that's fine. I'm all for it. Um, but then, especially now that I'm unemployed, I've got a lot of time, and I want to start cultivating this channel. And so you saw I had one person, one of my guys, he popped in here for a minute or two, and that was it. But I'd like to even break 100 subs on this channel. Um, and hopefully more people will come in here in the comments and start sharing their experiences and some of their growth as well, share some of their stories, and maybe we can grow this channel. But in all honesty, I don't really have a direction. I don't have a good handle on this channel, and I'm gonna keep working at it. But every single day, I'm going to upload something, even if it's just a 5-minute video to say good morning, hey, I'm still alive. I'm gonna upload, and hopefully I can make something out of this. And one of the driving factors for me going to rehab was the fact that I was trying to do this and I was still drinking. And you can't really do the two. You can't be on camera and drunk at the same time. It's not a good look. And so I'll leave a few links in the description. If you're interested in supporting my channel, if you're interested in helping me and watching me grow or calling me out when I display some negative behaviors, please don't hesitate. Feel free to like and subscribe, comment, share what you think. I'm open to hear it. I would love to. And hopefully we can get this channel growing. And I'll try to get better at this as I go along. But this is yeah, I'm gonna be on it every day, you know. And if I can actually get some people in here, maybe maybe we can actually do something with this channel. Because I know a lot of people are I feel like that's blown out. I know a lot of people are probably struggling with some of the same things that I'm struggling with, because it's it's a hard road today. If you look today and you look at the economy and you look online, um, the majority of things that are on YouTube right now, they're about the economy, they're about politics. There's a lot of things on YouTube about how difficult it is to live in this economy and our politicians not caring about us. So, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just that 30-minute ramble. I'm I kind of don't want to give up on this live stream, but I don't see anybody coming in. Plus, it's 10 in the morning on Friday. So, thank you to everybody who dropped in, especially you, Rusty. I appreciate you, Rusty, and I'm super glad that you stopped by. Um, I'm super glad for it. So I'm gonna wrap this up. I didn't want to be too long, but I'm already over. So, but I appreciate everybody who watched. Whoever stops in, please share your thoughts. Help us grow this channel, and I'll keep working on this and try to get better. I'm just gonna upload every day, anything at this point to keep it going and try to get some engagement. But thank you again for watching. I'm HowlinMadSmith, and have a wonderful day.